When it comes to Assam, its history, it moves from the Kamarupa in ancient to the modern way how the tea plantation and tea cultivation had been developed during the British rule. Yes, there were invincible a home culture as well, a home dynasty that ruled over here. They have fought against the against the Mughal expansion as well. But later on, the Britishers, when it came under the influence of the Britishers or under their rule, it was when the Assam got the identity of the tea cultivation as well as the oil exploration. It began over here. And now Assam is moving towards another economic transformation that we will be covering in this complete session. When it comes to the RBI, so according to RBI's recent report, there had been 45% of the real GSDP growth during the phase of 2022-25. At the same time, it is the number one fastest growing major state in India, which had total 4,883 crore of the exports in 2024-25, and 25.24% is the debt to GSDP ratio, which is beyond or below 32% of the ceiling that is there. So this is the complete transformation shift that Assam is going, that is from chai to the corridor, which is a model that we must or it is worth studying. So we'll be talking about this in today's session. Now, when it comes to the Assam, so there had been a complete paradigm shift, and that has redefined this northeast frontier. When it comes to the peripheral economy, it was a landlocked, or it is still a landlocked state, and that was a kind of curse that this state had. But it has changed this curse to a boon. There is also, or there was earlier also, a single commodity dependency, that is the tea cultivation, and it was defined by the flood and insurgency as well. This is the land which is known by the name of Red River and Blue Hills. Alright, at the same time, right now, this is the growth engine. It is India's fastest growing state between 2020 to 2025 fiscal year. There had been total 4,883 crore in the diversified exports, and also the Tata Group semiconductor assembly and high value manufacturing hub is being developed in Assam. So this is the reason why this state had been in news. So there is a semiconductor push where the Tata Group is moving ahead. It has approved 27,000 crore of semiconductor facility in Jagi Road. At the same time, there is a transition that we have seen from the traditional chai or tea-based, economy, and also oil-based economy to the high-value tech manufacturing that we'll be seeing in the coming future. And also, there had been record investment in the Brahmaputra bridges and also towards the Gati Shakti corridors. When it comes to Assam, it has strengthened itself as the gateway to the ASEAN economies as well. And like I said, that according to the RBI's recent data in April 2026, this has revealed that Assam is the India's fastest growing major state between 2020 to 25. It has per capita growth worth noting that per capita growth, it lags despite that there had been a surge in the GSDP. And this shows that or highlights that there had been growth without prosperity paradox as well. Assam's model of capital-led, fiscally disciplined growth contrasts with the subsidy-heavy peer states, and over here the debate is that can Assam sustain its $143 billion GSDP target, that is by 2030, with or while bridging the HDI or Human Development Index gap that is there in the state. Now, when it comes to the Assam, I have told you it has a vivid history, and it was during the Treaty of Yandabu in 1826 that marked the end of the Home rule in the state, and the state was brought under the British colonial administration. Over here, the colonial economy focused on the tea plantation and even petroleum discovery in Digboy, and it faced after the independence a kind of geographic isolation because it was landlocked, and there is just Siliguri corridor that connects the complete northeast to India, rest of the India, and this corridor is quite narrow. At the same time, there were development stagnation due to insurgency that this state has faced, and now there is a paradigm shift from the security first to the development-led governance in the last decades that we have seen in the state. Now, when it comes to the Assam, this is the complete profile of Assam. It is located in the northeast region and it borders with the Bhutan, Bangladesh. They are the major foreign nations that connects their border with the Assam. Along with this, we have Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, Meghalaya and Mizoram. These are the Indian states that borders Assam. When it comes to Dispur is the state capital. The largest city is Guwahati, which is also gateway city to the northeast of India. It is bisected by Brahmaputra, and historically, the Brahmaputra river had been a geographic as well as economic barrier. Assam has a special category status, status that has been provided to it, and therefore significant central transfer grant are given to the Assam as a state, and it also hosts the India's oldest oil field, that is Digboy, from where the oil generation or oil exploration started in 1889, and also there are major tea estates which are located in the state. When it comes to the economic field, so if we see in the history what was there, that tea was the major of the exports when it came to Assam. 84% of the export in 2015-16 was tea. But now there are diversified ways in which the state is moving ahead in the context of the export. Now the tea have declined to just 48%, and it is the first time that you will see that non-tea exports, they are greater than the tea basket. There is, when it comes to non-tea exports, there are petroleum GI tag products which are there, like for example, Bhoot, Jolokia, Joha rice and Muga silk. Their share is rising in the export. It is worth noting over here that Muga silk is only found in Assam. It is only in Assam that Muga silk is there. At the same time, when it comes to the GSDP in 2020, the GSDP was 2.4 lakh crore rupees, which has grown to 3.5 lakh crore rupees in 2025, and total capital outlay is more than 4% of the GSDP, whereas the national average is near about 2.6%. When it comes to the interest payments, they are 7.26% of the revenue receipts as compared to the 14% that is the national average. And this is the complete scenario when it comes to the economic, dimension. So over here, you can see that how the export basket has changed. Earlier, it was majorly tea in 2015-16. Now it is tea, which is just 48%. Again, it is a major contributor to the exports. But along with this, there are petroleum products. There is also the semiconductor or high value manufacturing that is by the Tata Group. Then there will be a premium agriculture where we have the GI tag products, which is Bhoot, Jolokia and Joha rice. And there is Muga silk as well. All right. And this is how the export has diversified. Now, these are the certain key datas or key facts which are over here in front of you. When it comes to the cumulative GSDP growth that had been there between 2020 to 25, it was 45% for Assam. In total GSDP in 2025, it was 3.5 lakh crore. That was up from 2.4 lakh crore. And the exports, they rose by 32% year-on-year basis to 4,883 crore rupees. When it comes to the tea share in the export, it has come down to 48%, and more than 4% is the capital outlay or percentage of the GSDP as compared to the national average of 2.6%. 86% of the budget execution rate is there in Assam, which has moved up from 63%. And when it comes to own tax revenue in 2025, it was 34,148 crore rupees, and it grew at 3% per annum. At the same time, when it comes to the debt to GSDP ratio, it is 25.24%, and the limit to debt to GSDP ratio is 32%. Now let's see Assam in whole dimension, that is in social, in political, in every dimension, in ethical as well. These are some things that you have to keep in mind while you are thinking about Assam. So when it comes to literacy, literacy is at 87%, which is above national average, and it signals that there is human capital accumulation in the state. When it comes to the labor force participation, it is at 70.2%. There is broad-based and there are rural women which are also included in the labor force. And there is improved gender equity when it comes to the labor force in Assam. At the same time, when it comes to the mortality rate or MMR, it is 125 per 1,000 live births. The infant mortality is 32 per 1,000, that has halved from 68, and it is among the sharpest reduction that you will see in whole of India. When it comes to the per capita income, it is still below the national average. Although there is a quite high growth that we have seen, but the per capita income, it still is below national average. There is high food expenditure that share the signals low household purchasing power as well. There is also, when it comes to the self-employment and informal work, they are dominant in the state. The quality of employment, again, it remains a concern. There is jobless growth risk that is there in the state. And also, the higher education enrollment significantly is below all India average. There is skill deficit, and that limits the future of the state or future growth trajectory of Assam as a state. Now, when it comes to the economic, so in economic field, there are certain strengths and certain challenges as well. When it comes to the strength, we have already gone through them. That is that right now, 45% was the real GSDP growth in the 5 years. And this shows that there was convergence effect at the work. There had been export diversification as well. Right now, earlier it was only tea that was major export, but now we have petroleum products, GI products, and they had been exported to the Gulf nations as well as to the European Union markets. When it comes to the capital outlay, it is somewhere near about 4% of the GSDP. Assam Mala, that is a 340-kilometer highway corridors, had been planned in the state. It has own tax revenue that has doubled. The budget execution is at 86%, and this is the rare fiscal discipline that you will see in any of the state. And when it comes to the Tata Semiconductor unit will be over here, and that will give a diversification into the high value manufacturing for the state as well. But there are certain challenges when it comes to the economic scenario of the state. There is heavy dependence on the central transfer. Own source revenue is only about 37% of the total receipts. The tea sector is under stress right now. The input costs, they are rising, and they are rising faster as compared to the market price for the tea. The per capita income gap is there as compared to the national average. It persists despite that there had been a good GSDP growth in the state. The target of $143 billion GSDP is by 2030. But at the same time, this requires sustain about 15% of the nominal annual growth. And also, extractive economic risk is there, where petroleum and primary commodities, they still dominate the economic sector of Assam. Now, when it comes to the political and governance framework or the dimension, so over here, the fiscal discipline is under Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma. Capital formation had been prioritized over the subsidies, and ultimately this is a politically bold choice that had been taken by the Chief Minister or the government of the Assam. When it comes to the budget execution rate, that have improved from 63%, that has gone up to 86%, and this is something that you will see very rarely in the Indian state, and this reflects that there is the administrative capacity that have improved in the state. When it comes to the excise revenue, that has doubled. From 1400 crore rupees, it has jumped to 3039 crore rupees, and there had been structural reforms and not one-time windfall that have led to the doubling of the excise revenue in Assam. When it comes to the special category state framework, Article 275 grants are important, and over here we have donor funding, Northeast Special Package also that provides funds to the state. Assam Accord implementation and the ethnic peace is very important. Alright, we have seen that the state had been through insurgency, and when it comes to the peace, that is the first and foremost prerequisite for the investor confidence, and this is the governance challenge that still persists in the state. And also there is the risk of center-state fiscal dependency ratio that still remains high. The state, it still remains dependent upon the center's share of the funds. The state's growth autonomy constrained by the transfer volatility, that is also a major risk that we have to see. At the same time, the state is battling with the environmental and ecological constraints as well. When it comes to Brahmaputra, that is the major lifeline of the state, but at the same time, it also is where the floods happen every year. When it comes to the Brahmaputra floods, they are structural and non-policy variable. Annual economic losses are because of these floods, and that disrupt the growth continuity. When it comes to the infrastructure push, there had been push for the roads and the bridges. And this push we have seen in the hilly state regions, that whenever we are moving forward with the infrastructural push, whether it is roads, bridges, that risk the environmental degradation in one of the India's most sensitive biodiversity zones. Then Kaziranga National Park is a UNESCO protected site or World Heritage, and there is Manas National Park as well. These are the very fragile ecosystem which are just near the development corridors which had been planned. When it comes to the waterway, national waterway, that is number 2, is located on Brahmaputra. It is low carbon logistic opportunity that is provided, and we must balance it with the river ecology. The climate change intensifies the flood risk in Brahmaputra, and IPCC projections are there that there will be melting of the Himalayan glaciers, and that will again increase the Brahmaputra flow, and that will also increase the flooding risk in Brahmaputra. That is already a risk for Assam. Also, when it comes to GI tag sustainable products like Muga silk, Johar rice or agar wood, over here ecological agriculture as the export opportunity has to be it has to be seen, or it has to be inculcated. Now, when it comes to the international relation, Assam is a pivot for the Act East policy of India. When it comes to the Act East policy, Assam is the India's gateway to ASEAN countries. Guwahati could be developed as a regional commercial hub. When it comes to Bangladesh border, so Assam has a Bangladesh border, and when it comes to Bangladesh, it is again a very important neighbor for India. And petroleum pipeline exports could be there between India and Bangladesh. There is also National Waterway 2 potential for the bilateral trade and also for reaching or bypassing the Siliguri corridor. Alright, through National Waterway 2, we can reach to Bangladesh, and through Bangladesh, then the trade or the products or the people as well, they can move to the different part of India. Alright, through Chittagong or the region or the other ports which are there. So we can utilize National Waterway 2 potential for the bilateral trade. Land port can be developed, and ultimately the upgrade, we can upgrade at the Agartala and Sutarkandi as well, land ports. Then the Bhutan corridor is there, where we have the energy exports. The petroleum products can be exported to Bhutan, and hydropower cooperation is very, very important between Bhutan and India. And we have BBIN initiative that has been launched between India and Bhutan. Then there is ASEAN connectivity. We have Kaladan multimodal transit, India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, and over here the Assam can act as a link pin, and China factor is there. We have BRI presence in Bangladesh and Myanmar that creates the strategic urgency for India to develop the Northeast faster. Alright. BIMSTEC and the SAARC framework are also important, because when it comes to the Assam, so Assam's development strengthens the India's neighborhood policy and ultimately engagement level, and therefore we can use Assam's development strategies for developing or for increasing the BIMSTEC and SAARC frameworks as well. Now, when it comes to the ethical or the equity framework, so we have seen that despite a higher GSDP growth rate, there is the growth paradox that is there in Assam. The GSDP growth is at 45%, but the per capita income is below the national average, and that is where we have the equity or the distribution failures that have to be seen. Then when it comes to the tea garden workers, they are the most of the India's historically marginalized communities. Most of them, they are also the women as well. The growth is not tickling to the estate labor. Again, I'm telling you, most of them are basically women. All right. The female LFP or they are, at 70.2%, that shows the participation, but the quality of work that is informal or unpaid, that remains a very prominent issue. And when it comes to the infrastructure corridor and also the 5th and the 6th scheduled land rights for the indigenous communities, that is also one thing that has to be seen, that the traditional rights of the tribals, that should not be taken there from them in the name of the development. Alright, there is also fiscal prudence today. that ensures that the debt burden is not passed to the future generations, and this is of a very important ethical imperative. And also when it comes to the communities, they are dependent upon Brahmaputra for their livelihoods. Alright, they fear or bear the disproportionate flood and pollution cost. That is also a equity or ethical dimension that we have. Now, when we see Assam in a complete timeline, so in the past we have seen that before independence there were colonial extractive industry or economy that was based in Assam. That was majorly based upon tea as well as the petroleum extraction, with no industrial base that were there in the Assam. After independence, the Ulfa insurgency was there. Also in 1985, Assam Accord was signed that led to the political instability, and ultimately this political instability had stunted the investment into the state. Then in 2000, there were sustained flood losses. The Northeast, it lagged the national growth by 3 to 4% annually. And in 2015-16, the tea export basket was 84% for the state. And there were fiscal stress and poor budget execution as well that were there in the past. But in the present or in current scenario, we are seeing that there is 45% of the GSDP growth as well. The exports have grown to 4,883 crore rupees. Own tax revenue is at 34,148 crore rupees. There is Assam Mala highway network where we have the Brahmaputra bridges also, which are being planned and they are being constructed. So there is a heavy outlay that is on the infrastructure in the state, and again that is developing the state, and the transit times are getting reducing. The Tata Semiconductor Unit Hub that will be over here, that will be a pivot to the high value manufacturing in the state. But at the same time, we have to understand that the per capita income is below the average and informal employment is quite dominant when it comes to Assam. Now, when it comes to the future, the target is to grow the economy by $143 billion of the GSDP by 2030. This is an ambitious plan, and this requires 15% of the nominal growth in the state. Active policy integration should be there when it comes to the Assam, as well as the ASEAN trade hub potential is there for the Assam to develop by 2030s. Also, the green growth opportunity is there. Assam is quite, whole of the Northeast, it is where we have more of the carbon stock. So there is a green growth opportunity, ecotourism as well as the organic exports opportunities are there. We can utilize the national waterway logistics for the for transportation of various logistics from one place to the another. But at the same time, in the future, the risk is from the climate change, from the flooding of the Brahmaputra, political volatility as well, and also the central transfer dependence that the state still lives upon. Now, when it comes to the various schemes that have led to the development of the state, there is PM Gati Shakti multimodal connectivity backbone that have enabled the Assam Mala railways and also National Waterway 2 synchronization. There is Act East policy that positions Assam as geostrategic gateway and drives the cross-border trade with ASEAN and the other nations. There is the Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission have said when it comes to the vertical devolution formula that there should be, or it should be based upon the state's performance when it comes to the economic factors, and also there had been special grants to the Northeast states that had been underpin the fiscal transfers. When it comes to the Niti Aayog Sustainable Development Index, so Assam have improved its rankings. It has improved its ranking, but at the same time, health and education, there are still lag, and this is where the human development have to work upon in the state. When it comes to the FRBM Act, so 32% debt to GSDP ratio is the ceiling, and Assam is at just 25.24%. So this is very much a kind of positive factor for the Assam. This enables that there will be further borrowing that it can do from the center. And when it comes to the reports, infrastructure investment as multiplier had been laid down, and every 1% GSDP that had been spent in the capital that had given the 1.5% of the output that had been laid down by Asian Development Bank and World Bank reports as well. Now, there are certain things that you can interlink over here. That is, when it comes to India-Bangladesh relation, so the Assam petroleum export through Bangladesh corridor could be utilized, and also National Waterway 2 opens Chittagong port access, and thereby it also lets us that we are not dependent upon Siliguri corridor, or we can have an alternative route to the Siliguri corridor in the northeast. Then when it comes to the semiconductor policy or the semiconductor mission of India, so we have a Tata unit that will start in Assam, and it connects to the PLI scheme and Digital India mission as well. Then when it comes to GI tags, we have Boot Jolokia, Johar rice as well as Muga silk. This all links to trips towards WTO IP framework and also the Geo tag or GI Act that we have in 1999. When it comes to Inland Waterways Authority of India, so we have over here Brahmaputra, on which we have National Waterway 2 that has been constructed, and it will act as a blue economy corridor, and of course it is very important for the Sagarmala program also. Then when it comes to climate change and Sendai framework, Brahmaputra floods are a risk for whole of Assam. There is also, it connects to the COP commitments or the NDC or nationally determined contribution. And when it comes to the special category states debate, so Assam has been provided with a special category state. The 15th of the Financial Commission that have removed the special category status, but at the same time when it comes to the fiscal autonomy that have been granted, and that is again a very important thing that you have to remember moving ahead when it comes to Assam. But there are certain challenges in front of Assam, or also there is a way forward as well. When it comes to the shift, there had been a shift to prosperity-led growth. The redirection of the investment from the GSDP maximization, it should be done towards the Human Development Index. All right. And ultimately, we will see that there will be linked outcomes. The health infrastructure, it will become robust. The skill development will be there, skill universities, and also there would be quality for formal jobs in the state, because there is more of the informal jobs that we have seen. At the same time, Brahmaputra Basin Authority is there, which is flood prone. So there should be flood resistant infrastructure codes that should be laid down. Sendai linked DRR fund should be over here, and embankment and wetland balance should be maintained while planning for any of the infrastructural growth in the region or vicinity of Brahmaputra. When it comes to the tea sector, minimum support price mechanism should be there for the tea sector. Diversification into value-added tea products should be done. All right, we should diversify into the other products or food processing, and also cooperative models should be implemented for the estate workers. When it comes to the central dependency, it should be reduced. It should deepen. The state should deepen its own tax revenue reforms. GST compliance improvement should be there. And also, when it comes to the public sector enterprises, there should be disinvestment, municipal finance strengthening should be done that will improve the financial or the fiscal structure of Assam. Also, when it comes to the employment, it should be inclusive. There should be formalization of the incentives for informal workers. Skill-intensive sectors should be, they should be promoted. Like, for example, electronics is there, textiles, tourism, and healthcare. And obviously, when it comes to the investment into the, we will have the Tata, the plant that will come up. So that will, again, it will lead to the more employment into the formal sector. Also, when it comes to the Act East, Assam is an integral part and it should be integrated into the Act East policy of India. We should fast track the land port infrastructure at Sutarkandi and Agartala. National Waterway 2, it should be operationalization for the ASEAN cargo, and we should invest into Guwahati to develop it as a regional hub. The regional commercial hub that could be developed at Guwahati. So that is all in this session. I hope now you have a complete understanding why and how Assam has developed, or it is one of the most important nation, and it is also the fastest growing, the major state in India, and how it has changed or transformed into this particular fiat. So that would be all in this video, but at the same time, you can connect with me on my Telegram. This is my Telegram channel. You can scan and connect to me on my Telegram, as well as you can search for me at the rate Bhava_StudyIQ. So that would be all. But at the same time, if you are preparing for the civil services for 2027 or for 2028, so you can join our GS Foundation batch, that is Resolution P2I. And over here, if you want the maximum discount while enrolling into the courses, you can also use my code, that is BRS Live, for enrolling into the batches. So that would be all in this video, but do not forget to like the session, share the session, and comment if you have anything that is in your mind, any doubt that you have, or anything that you want me to clarify. So that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Jai Hind. And do subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of the updates. Thank you and Jai Hind.